It's been an exciting 2025. It's been
very busy, very chaotic, but that's how we like it.
Yeah. We have quite a few different things that we plan to focus on moving into next year. Just to name a few of them, we've got online ordering, a second aggregate processing factory,
the distribution network expanding,
and some new product launches that we can't talk about yet. Hi, I'm Lucy, Sales and Marketing Director for Vuba Surfaces Worldwide.
Hi, I'm Amelia and I'm the newly appointed Europe and UK Manager.
And today, it's your first podcast, Amelia.
It is. I am excited.
All of our focuses and kind of things that are going to be really important to our Vuba customers for moving into 2026. I can't believe it's December already, to be fair. 2025 has been such a hectic year for us. What do you think's been like some of the standout things for you for this year?
There's been so much. I feel like this year it's completely changed. Obviously the processing facility, that's been a massive step forward. So processing all our own aggregates, quality control. Then there's changes in the team, all different roles, new offices.
I feel like every year we sit down and say, like internally, it's been a transformative year this year, and this year's not felt any different to that and has felt like a transformative year. I think especially from a UK business side of things, we've shifted the way, our focus is, and the plans for 2026 is to have even more focus on a lot of things, but I guess let's start with distributors.
So I was the distribution account manager all of this year, and that's been passed on now. But that's changed drastically, hasn't it? So we've built a massive network. I think we're on nearly 9 distributors now, which is crazy. And it's been a massive benefit to our customers having someone local. Obviously, we're always here at the centre of Vuba, but to have someone local has been really great.
It's not a case of customers go to distributors and that's it, we have no involvement with them. It's still very much, they can ring us whenever they need anything, we're checking in with them, but then we're also checking in with the distributors, and they've got points of contact that are not only local from a better haulage connections point of view, but also from a point of view of a lot of the distributors have been in the industry themselves for a long time. Simon from Vuba Kent, we had him and Billy on the podcast table at the start of the year.
Bet Simon loved that.
Carl and Danielle, they're about to set up as Vuba Lancashire. They've had over 20 years installing in the industry, and I think it's just another element of support for our network of installers to lean on, really. There's a huge focus on distribution partners for the UK for 2026 and internationally, but all of that is to aim to get installers a better service and everything like that, and that's everything that we're doing behind the scenes as well. Going into 2026, exciting news that 2 of our distributors are opening second locations,
which is crazy to think now. For 2025, Kent opened at the start of the year, and they're now expanding to Essex, so that'll be huge. I think that's one of the biggest depots we'll have. They're really kitting it out, getting as much stock as possible. That'll be massive. And then RBS are already in at Scotland, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Which is another huge step, especially Scotland being so far up. And it's so great to build a relationship with such great distributors, and then them to go on and show how well the network's developing and be able to have new areas. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. And I think not only for kind of moving into 2026 is there a massive focus on the distribution network across the UK, distribution network internationally. This year, I feel like we say it every year, but this year I think more than ever we've seen growth internationally kind of surpass probably even our expectations. You've been involved quite heavily in the Europe side of things with that, and I've been working alongside Ellie for Americas, and then myself and Charlotte from the sales team was in Australia last month. Exciting new distributors across there, based in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, and then Jonah, aka Chicken Man, he's in partnership with Marcus Ward to do Vuba WA, so the Western Australia side of things. So I think there's lots of exciting potentials for Australia next year, but America and what we're doing with opening up the new distribution facility in Virginia there is so exciting. Working with new partners there as well, all across America, new distribution partners, and then Europe.
I think that's only the start as well. Like in Europe, we work with a company called Echo Products. We have a really great relationship with them, and they know all the ins and outs of, how we can push the sales across Europe. So that's really great. But then we have new partners all over, gaining new distributors all the time in areas we would never have even expected.
And so Echo are obviously, they're based in Belgium, and they're having a focus kind of around them areas, but then supporting us with the rest of Europe as well. But we do have other people that we work directly with across Europe, in France, Cyprus, Denmark. We've got people doing shows week in, week out, launching showrooms. And then obviously there's the Middle East as well, and all of the expansion across the Middle East. We've got companies that we're working with in all different parts of the Middle East, and I think there's just so much opportunity worldwide for Resin Bound.
Feels like it's just the start.
100%, which I feel like is crazy to say, because when you look back, like I started 5 years ago, and you're obviously coming up to 2 years ago, but like even like 2 years ago, I feel like we said, we can't believe how much it's grown and we're just scratching the surface. But every year it feels like we're just scratching the surface of what Vuba can do. And I think it's so exciting.
And even with all that going on in Europe and internationally, there's so much we're still working on for the UK. I feel like every year, like we're looking at a new approved installer scheme, aren't we? Yeah. All these things we look at behind the scenes should have a massive impact, going into next year.
Developing and improving the new registered, approved and elite installer schemes. What we've definitely found this year is we do a lot of marketing focus towards homeowners as well as installers, don't we? So we do a lot about educating the homeowners on the type of bases and sub bases that the resin should be laid on top of. And I think that's a key thing within this industry. Educating the homeowner on what they need to be looking for in an installer is only going to help to improve the reputation that resin has as a system, because it means it will be installed properly because the homeowners are more aware of what they need to be looking out for.
Because then you're going to end up with Resin Bound in general having a much better reputation, which it already does, because when everything's laid correctly, it's such a good system. But then you've also got contractors coming to us saying their homeowners requested Vuba specifically before they've even shown them the case or anything. So I think that shows what that work behind the scenes is really doing.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point. It's like, it's crazy to us that people will call and go, I've worked with one of our competitors, that will be quite highly regarded within the industry, and say, I've worked with these for X amount of years, had kind of no issues with them, but every job I'm visiting, the homeowners are saying, is it Vuba that you use? And when I'm saying no, I'm losing out on jobs potentially. And for us, that's what we're aiming for. On like the subject of homeowners, I think that's a really, interesting point, that we've seen more and more homeowners asking for Vuba as a system, and not only that, but asking for Vuba Mac. We launched Vuba Mac coming up to 2 years in March, sold hundreds of thousands of square meters of it. It's kind of been copied by every competitor in the industry.
Well, they've tried.
They've copied what they think is the system without the research behind it. But I think it creates another real key talking point. We launched this system coming up to 2 years ago and have not seen a single issue with a resin topping that's laid on top of a Vuba Mac base, because it's doing all of the things it's designed to do. It's designed to make the base and the topping act as one system, essentially. And moving into 2026, a really big focus for us is that a basic requirement of resin bound bases is it has to be Vuba Mac. I think
100%. The confidence we have in that as a base, I think obviously to begin with, you've got to see it down for a year or two. Yeah. You want to, see exactly how it performs. And I think it couldn't have performed any better. Anytime anyone asks now about a base, you're just 100% confident in the Vuba Mac.
And it's giving not only installers that peace of mind, but it gives homeowners that peace of mind, because it comes with your 5-year no crack guarantee. It also means your warranty is extended to 25 years from 20, and we're then seeing less and less issues within resin topping that then overall gives resin a bad name because it's being laid on a base that doesn't allow them issues to come through, which I think all of it is just such positives for the industry and everybody within the industry, kind of whether you work with Vuba or not, I would say.
100%. And even the fact that we can now teach that all our training courses to people completely new to resin that might not be 100% confident in laying. And the fact that if you can lay resin, you can lay Vuba Mac, it's easier. You can just roller it out. You're not even having to trowel it. It couldn't be a simpler system really. So yeah, it's just been great for this year.
Yeah, so a real focus of ours for moving into next year, like we say, is that not only are we going to have registered, approved and elite installers, for us as a company, an approved install has to be on Vuba Mac. I think it's a case of it gives so much peace of mind, and we're even thinking of launching a new system where if you do a Vuba Mac install, and that comes with a special type of warranty that you can give to the homeowner, it comes with a free aftercare kit that you can give to the homeowner, all these things that are huge advantages to homeowners and just the system in general. And on that same note, I think, you know, for us as well as a company moving into next year, if it's an overlay that people are doing, it has to be meshed, whether it's asphalt or concrete, it has to have structural reinforcement mesh on it.
But we've always recommended that, haven't we? This year it's been something the sales team always push.
For concrete especially, but I think move on to asphalt as well is a newer concept, I think, for everybody in the industry. But just from how we're seeing like asphalt behave with ground heave and sub base and more recycled material within asphalt, I think it is now needed that on an overlay it needs to be meshed, whether it's concrete or asphalt now.
I've always said, would you rather spend that little bit more and, you know, a few years down the line you don't have to worry about it, versus, you know, taking the risk and it's really not worth it.
We actually had somebody send us an image. It was an overlay and they'd meshed it, and they took the resin up and like it just curls round with the mesh. It's like it's just created one system. In general, I don't think there's a better way to show like how strong that mesh is in creating a bond.
And you can't always control, we always say if you see some sort of cracking or something, it's always related to the base. You can't always control movement in a base and things like that. So mesh is your answer. If it's not Vuba Mac, then it's at least mesh.
On the same vein-ish, I guess, you know, we're kind of as a company, whereas previously we was only involved, I would say, in the topping, the resin topping. Obviously that's what we manufacture. That's getting into Vuba Mac 2 years ago has now made everybody within the company much more aware of bases. But I feel like especially this year that's led on to even more us looking even more into sub bases as well. The difference between your type 1 and your type 3 and how much fines can affect permeability and movement within the systems and what an impact that has. And I think all of that is really positive for the industry as well.
I think we've had a big push this year, especially the second half of this year, on just education in general, on the bases, on the topping, on everything to do with resin bound. So going into next year there'll definitely be even more of that. Again, having our approved installers, making sure they know all the ins and the outs of what we recommend, our spec, and it just means every Vuba drive that starts to go down is going to be, you know, 100% what we recommend.
Something for us as well that we're planning to have a bit of a new idea or a new focus on for moving into next year is potentially having a network of approved quarries that have what would be classed as an approved Vuba sub-base stone that's easily accessible for our contractors. Because what we find is a lot of people will say to us, I struggle to get hold of MOT type 3 where I am. So I think it's about making sure that clean stone is available to people. And often what we'll find is quarries are maybe a little bit reluctant to process a clean stone because it's a little bit more effort. Normally, if someone's ordering it for a domestic driveway, you're not ordering that much of it. Whereas what we want to do is get a network of approved quarries across the UK that we can say, right, this is your local approved quarry you can go to. As Vuba, we'll have already kind of committed to a large amount of tonnage to the quarry, so it'll be processed and ready, and the contractors can go and pick that up. And we know that the standard of sub-base stone being used is exactly as we want it to be, and we're trying to help the contractors and installers across the UK find them materials as well. So, you know, that's a bit of a focus of ours for 2026 as well, which I think is really exciting. Another new thing for Vuba, we're always doing new things.
The list will never end.
But a new system that we're introducing in 2026 is Vuba Flex. So, we've been asked for as long as I can remember about if we do rubber, why don't we do rubber? And I think it is a natural add-on for a lot of people that do resin.
Yeah. The two sort of coincide. A lot of guys that do rubber are also doing the resin bound.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think for us, we want people to be able to come to us for both. If that's something that's important to their business, we want them to know they've got the Vuba backing for both sides of that. So rubber systems is something that we're getting into. So there'll be a few different branches of products under the Vuba Flex umbrella. More information to come on that, I guess, but another exciting development.
So something else we've been working on behind the scenes is online ordering. So going into 2026, we want customers to be able to order online through the website, which will have loads of benefits, won't it?
We've made the process really smooth as well. I'm proud of this one. The idea is to try and make it as smooth as possible. So at the minute, it's a bit of you log in, and from a trade customer point of view, you can put your square meters in, you can put what percent wastage you'd like. Do you want Vuba Mac adding on there? Do you want moisture tolerant resin or standard? What colour you want? And it tells you how many kits you need. It literally does the work for you. You don't even have to think about it. And then you can select your delivery date. You can add comments on there of if it's a continuation job, if it's on a hill for delivery.
You can even edit the basket. So if you already have a few extra resin kits from your last job that you were going to use, you can remove them. So we've done it as best possible, really.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the idea of that is absolutely if you prefer to order through a person, absolutely that's fine. The account managers are still there, the distributors are still there, that is the point. But what we want to do is then people who, when you finished a job and you're on a night time, sat watching TV and you think, I could do to order that for later this week, you can just do that, and it is so simple. And again, ideally, then a lot of people will uptake that, and it also means it's then freeing up our sales team.
Rather than, spending a lot of time putting those quotes together, which might even make it easier. Contractors doing it themselves. You can fiddle about with exactly what you want. But it also means, our sales team are then free to be calling up and finding out about how you're getting on site. Spending time on making sure, have we sent you enough leads recently? Do you know about our new products, our Vuba M Premix? Do you know about Grass Mac? Have you used Vuba Mac? If not, what's the oppositions against it? How can we help you switch to Vuba Mac? How can we help you sell more resin? Our team of account managers, sales admins, account execs, they all know Vuba through and through, and a lot of them, they know the industry, maybe not through and through because they're not on site every day, but they know the industry. Well, there's a lot to know, isn't there? The resin band industry, it's not simple, is it? There's so much to know. So we find when people come in as an admin, really build up the technical knowledge of the systems, everything we can do to help the contractors, and they just gradually progress. And we really believe in the salespeople having a really good technical understanding of the system. You're not just there to sell some resin and some stone. You need to understand the system so that we can make sure that we're helping people in any area we can, really. And they've got a lot more value to add to people and help people in growing their businesses, whether that's people internationally or whether it's people across the UK. And I think this is just a huge step towards that. It will also give us time for our account managers and sales team to go out to our local distributors. Anything we do that we'd like them to do to make sure anyone buying from them has the most up-to-date information, up-to-date products, everything. We want to make sure each distributor is just a mini version of the main Vuba site, and has everything to support you guys with. So we'll be more freed up to do that as well. With increased online ordering, hopefully if people take it up and people like it and find it easier to do, which I really think they will, and with obviously the local distributors, within the sales team, we're having a bit of a shift, aren't we? Whereas distributors have come under yourself and Desmi for this year, every account manager will have a distributor to look after and an area to look after. That's not something we've particularly done before, but I think it's really advantageous in the sense of they are there to help that distributor get the most out of working with Vuba, and then in turn the installers that buy from distributors or installers who buy from us get the most out of working with Vuba, and that's kind of a real focus
focus for us as well.
Yeah, 100%.
With new pricing structures that we're launching, I think is important for 2026.
I think we're trying to set a bit of a standard. Vuba are all about quality. If you want the best product, then that's what we're offering, with the best service, with the best customer service we can give, and that comes with a certain pricing structure that's best for everyone.
We invest a lot of what we make as a company back into the company. You know, I think that's clear for anybody internally or externally to see with setting up Vuba Minerals and all the effort that's gone into that. You can really see that within the investment that we put back into the company. And on that same thing, moving into next year, we're setting up a second aggregate processing facility. We're setting 2 new sites up in Melton, one where we're going to have a real focus on a second dryer, second bagging line, and a focus on processing Vuba aggregates, and an overspill facility for when it's needed from the Vuba Minerals site to help keep up with capacity and demand. And then a second site that's going to really focus on all things resin, so more capacity for premix and the Vuba end and Grassmark and your Vuba mat resins and everything else that goes along with that as well.
All in mind for better service. Yeah. We're getting to choose what bags we put the aggregate in that are strong enough and easy enough to use on site. Like, you know, the tiny details.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that as well, actually, because I think them tiny details and the fact and how much we listen to our contractors' feedback about them tiny details, but it's them things that when you're using the product day in, day out make a massive difference. I was on a visit this morning with one of our customers, and they was mentioning to me how aggregate bags from other suppliers will often they'll have more plastic, so there'll be more like room within the bag, which I think sometimes can be with good intentions to probably help things stack flatter on the pallets and stuff, but when they pick them up and put them on top of the mixers, it makes it a lot harder because the aggregate within the bag is kind of just flopping everywhere. And he was saying that compared to our bags of aggregate that are, you know, more tightly packed, it's much easier to then put them on top of the mixer and have things stack properly. So it's all little pieces of information like that. We're the manufacturer and we know the things that need to be done on the quality levels that need to be met, but then make sure that we're listening to everyone's feedback on all them little things that make such a difference on site is so important. And it's important to make sure that the people who are using the products every day are getting the easiest job possible, you know, and not causing them any issues that could just be easily rectified.
When they're using the products day to day, we want to make it as easy for you as possible.
And I think moisture tolerance done that a lot for people. Launching that, what we have seen over the past 3 years is that moisture tolerant resin has really given people that confidence to not have to be scared to lay these months. It means they can carry on with their businesses, which is their livelihoods, for longer in the year. That has really helped people throughout the UK. And previously we haven't done moisture tolerant as such internationally because we send resin uncatalyzed with it going to different climates. But that is something we're going to be changing moving into next year. Moisture tolerant will be available uncatalyzed to go to all of our partners across the world as well, to give them that reassurance and peace of mind, which I think is such an exciting development.
It's a really good next step. Going over to Europe, the fact that they can have a wider range of our products, they'll be able to have the confidence to lay.
That's just another thing that we've introduced in the past couple of years that's really helped our customers.
It's really nice to see now. Obviously we come out with our products and, you know we've done the testing, we know we've done all the work into it. So to see like moisture tolerant and Vuba Mac and the improvements it's had and how fewer technicals are seen all over from using those products, that's really great. And then going into next year, we'll just carry that on.
More focus on just even more innovation, more research. The guys in the lab are very happy at the minute because where we've moved into our new offices in the Marina, they're still at our old Beverley site, but what used to be our offices is now just their full lab.
It is a giant lab now, but that's exactly what we need, more room for them to be testing, working on new products,
getting feedback.
This isn't it. There's going to be more to come further into 2026, 100%. There's more and more plans that are being put in place, so that's really exciting.
Obviously we've touched on it a little bit about kind of how at Vuba we really focus on kind of homeowner education as well as trying to educate people within the resin industry. I think a big focus for us next year as well is even more marketing towards homeowners, and I think for our customers and our kind of network of installers and distributors worldwide as well as in the UK, I think the reason that's important is we're creating the demand for the brand. People want the brand, they want want Vuba, and that's what we're trying to create, because then it creates more business for them. And not only that, but more credibility for Resin Bound as a system and for the resin industry. And I think all of that is something we really, really want to have even more of a push on next year. We've worked with Harry Redknapp this year. That was a real highlight.
That was really, still not got my head around that.
No, that was really, he was such a lovely guy as well.
Yeah,
he
was really down to earth.
There's something to be said for, there is a big cost that comes to us as a business for working with these kind of celebrities and influencers. And people might say, well, why would you spend the money on that? But it is important to create what then becomes a household name.
It does generate so many leads. Like on the general sales phone, we're always getting homeowners ring up and be like, oh, well, what blend was it that Harry Redknapp got? Yeah. Or what blend was it that Ollie Mayer's got?
Yeah, I saw they had Vuba Mac.
Yeah, exactly. It does have an influence on homeowners, because they believe, it's going to be a trusted product if they're using it. So I think definitely more of that next year. And then, like you said, it benefits everyone, benefits our contractors who are, out there working hard to lay our spec and everything. It just gets them more leads.
And then with the registered, approved and elite installer scheme as well, I think that links directly back to the homeowner leads. We want to have the real confidence in that the people that we do class as elite installers or approved installers or registered installers are all following the specifications that we're setting, and that homeowner is getting the best job that they possibly can get, and a job that has got the backing of us as a manufacturer, especially when it's an approved install on a Vuba Mac base. That's going to be so important for next year, and just continuing to improve the standard within the industry.
Well, it's exactly why we've come out with the aftercare kits this year. So it's a kit and you've got your 4 sprays, and they've all got their different purpose for essentially maintaining a drive and keeping it as well maintained as possible. And that's so important to the homeowner. We've already had good feedback on them. I think it'll be an even bigger push 2026. But yeah, just something, we're trying to think of the little things that make a difference.
And something for contractors and installers to offer their homeowners as well, like adding it onto their quotes as kind of a little nice extra add-on that homeowners can get. And it's just all that extra added value things for our customers as the installers, and then their customers as the homeowners, that I think sets us apart from the rest of the industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And on kind of, investment into the brand and expansion into the brand, from quite a few different conversations I've had with people across the UK and internationally this year, the demand for the brand has been unbelievable. And like we've said, I think we're only scratching the surface. By no means do we think our brand is known by everyone, but I think it can get there, and I think we plan for it to get there.
We're on track for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think conversations I've had with people this year, throughout the world, like I say, of people who might have started doing resin as a bit of a side business, or somebody within the business has other jobs and focuses on other things as well, and now they're going, God, I can't believe how much resin's taken off. I can't believe how much Vuba's taken off. I can't believe the demand for it, and I'm putting all my focus into this. And we have seen that a lot this year across the world.
So I think it's going to have a huge impact just across the world in general, like having a fully permeable surface that we're as confident in as anyone could be. A lot of areas don't have that. So say, for example, like in France, they were saying that there isn't a product similar to ours that can be vehicle traffic, so it can have cars on it. So what a huge impact having resin bound laid over there at vehicle depth, and how quickly I'm sure that'll spread.
And the suds compatibility obviously of the system, especially on Vuba Mac, it's labelled and been ranked as the most flood resistant paving system in the world, kind of especially for areas that are prone to flooding, or where the drainage in certain countries or certain areas might not be that great. That's a huge kind of benefit for house builders, councils. I think we're only going to see the popularity of resin bound for that reason just increase more and more.
Exactly. And we're going to adapt things to the certain area. Say, for example, sample cases. There's certain blends we've seen at Ipanema Beach. They love it in Spain, for example. So like things like that, there's so much we can work on.
It's a good point that as well, because, we've had, especially like me and Charlotte in Australia last month, they were saying to us, we absolutely love the sample cases. But for us, with it being quite a new product to the market, we'd like to offer less blends to start with, and no request like that for us is too much trouble. So we've then gone, right, let's have a look, how can we reduce these? I know we're currently working on a reduced sample case for some of our customers in America. And, you know, not to reduce the offering to customers, but sometimes there can be too much choice and it can be a little bit overwhelming.
I think we have over 100 blends now, which is really cool. But at the same time, for somewhere new, and best to start
And
simple.
especially like you say, for different areas, often the people who are based in them areas know what type of colours will be popular. So you know what type of colours you need in that case, and actually which ones that just one variation of that colour will be enough. So I think that's something when we say listening to feedback, no feedback is too small or too big for us to work on.
Yeah, we're taking all of that into account to go into next year. I think all the plans we've got in place.
100%. I think it's been a great year this year. It's always unbelievable to see how much changes in such a short space of time, really, and how much we see people within the team come on and all the different departments develop. And, you know, I think it's just such an exciting thing to be a part of. So if you're interested in becoming a Vuba installer
Or a Vuba distributor.
or if you'd like a Vuba service across the UK
Or even worldwide.
in 2026, then follow us across our socials, reach out across any of the platforms, give our sales line a ring, and we've got a team full of people ready to help you.